and TNC Radio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. I'm Tom Kelly. We're going to be with you for the next hour talking about the social black belt. So let me check in first. How you doing this week, Doc?
Doing well, thank you. Good to be here. How about yourself?
Oh, doing just great. And for those who may be listening in for the first time, you're not that far from ground zero of Hurricane Ian, who struck recently. How are things doing down there in Florida?
Well, we're trying to do our very best to be supportive of the many people who were hit directly and hit hard. There are some mixed feelings that we talked about last time, including tremendous relief, but then also guilt for celebrating when other people got hit hard. And then there's a sense of compassion and a desire to reach out and touch your neighbor when they've been hurt. And there are stories of people being displaced and people coming back to significantly damaged homes. And of course, there were lives lost too in the throes of it. And that's probably, a good 30, 40 miles or so south of us. But, it's just hard to watch that kind of suffering. And the one of the common themes is just helplessness.
Yeah.
Was to just see people suffer and always wondering, what can I do? How can I help?
And you can't help everybody. You just can't.
No.
I find it interesting that reporters tend to ask the same question at the end of these interviews, and they often ask people, will you rebuild? Will you come back? And they don't get the same answer every time. As I've watched this over the last week, I've seen absolutely, we'll be back. It's just, we got to get this thing rebuilt and we're going to be back and we can't wait to get back into it. And, we love this island. We're going to be on this island forever. And others who've said, not a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Would never come back here again, no matter what. And it's just interesting to get the different perspectives, and doesn't seem to be about the amount of, because they all have the same amount of damage. It's gone. But some are ready to look at this as a new adventure, and others look at it as the end of something and time to move on to something else.
Yeah, and I think there are always explanations for behavior. I guess that's the truth we happen to be on. The third truth is that behavior is purposeful. And you can understand why we do things, and we can understand what we get from things. There's always a payoff for a behavior, or we wouldn't do it. And, why would you rebuild? If they went further to say why, what they would learn is that these people were perhaps frustrated, irritated, but not devastated. You just challenged me by knocking out this home, but I'm going to put it back, insurance allowing, God willing. I'm going to put this thing back because I loved my life before this hit, and I'm not letting this defeat me. And then you got the neighbor who says, not a chance, I'm done. And I think what you find is beneath that was a greater sense of devastation. Sometimes that's the terror from the storm. Sometimes that's just a sense of, we put so much time and money into this and now it's all gone on one bad day. I'll be damned if I'm ever going to let that happen again. I mean, you dig a little deeper and you learn what is the motivating factor. Years ago, 2004, Hurricane Charlie hit almost in a similar spot in that area, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. It made this radical eastern turn over Charlotte Harbor. And we were expecting that it was going to come up either and hit Sarasota, Siesta Key, or hit above us, St. Pete, Tampa. And it didn't. It made this last minute turn. And I was supposed to be going up to celebrate my buddy's wedding, and we were grounded. I couldn't go. All the flights were canceled. So the next day, I called to say happy wedding and to talk to all the guys. And I talked to all the guys, and one of the guys said, "Hey, my father is in Punta Gorda, and I can't get a hold of him." And I said, "Okay, today's Saturday. I got nothing better to do." I grabbed a friend and I drove down to Punta Gorda. And to make a very long story short, I was amazed by the war zone that appeared suddenly around, mile 160 or so on the highway, and all the lights were folded in half, and the town just looked like it was bombed horribly. And the point of the story is, in finding his father and hooking him up with his son via cell phone, there was so much joy and relief that he was okay. But his wife said, "I don't want to live here anymore." That changed everything forever. She didn't care if she went back to the cold winters. That was it. It was so scary for her to be in that house and to see roofs flying around like the Wizard of Oz. And she was done. There was not another day she ever wanted to spend in Florida after Charlie came. And I point that out because whatever she thought of Florida the day before Charlie, that was permanently changed by the horror and the trauma that she experienced through that storm.
Sure. And well, let's keep talking about the truths. So we've gone over a couple of the truths, and are we ready to move on to 4, or do we have more to say about truth number 3?
Well, I was hoping to finish up a little bit more on 3. Where we left off last time, Tom, is that not only is behavior purposeful, but we keep things because there's a payoff. We hold on to things because they're meeting some kind of a need. And where we left off specifically was that there are at least 4 reasons why people hold on to resentment. And for those of you who were not with us, the first reason that people hold on to resentment is because the moment I give up my resentment, I am now 100% responsible for my own happiness and well-being. It is far easier to blame my mother, my childhood, my government, my ex-husband, you name it. We've all been hurt. We've all been betrayed, screwed over, cheated on, you name it. We have experienced in the course of a lifetime many things that have hurt us. And the people who have hurt us, the perpetrators, can be people who even loved us, like parents. I spoke to someone in the last 24 hours who said, when I was young, my father, who was a psychiatrist, said to me, "You're never going to make anything of yourself because you're ugly and you're stupid and you're fat." And I can't even imagine a drunken, mean father saying that to his own daughter, but imagine a psychiatrist, of all people, saying that. And this woman was recounting that and sharing just how devastating a blow, because what do you know as a kid, and your all-knowing doctor father is basically letting you know how useless you are. And, what she could do, she has the capacity to hold on to that resentment and always blame her father for underfunctioning. The reason she was telling the story is because she was saying at some point she decided that she was done living her life to prove him wrong. Why in the world would she want to give him that much power? And so she decided to release that and release his toxic words, and instead change her life and decide that she's going to rethink everything for herself. What do I think of myself? Who am I? What am I capable of? Who do I want to be and who do I want to think of myself? So, any one of us can find someone in our lives who hurt us. And if we keep that resentment, we don't have to keep responsibility for functioning well. We could project all the blame onto the person who hurt us. So the second one is that keeping resentment is tantamount to keeping a wall, a protective boundary so that nobody ever hurts us again. People say that after they've lost a couple of spouses. Sometimes they've been cheated on one too many times. Sometimes they start a business and the business goes out. They start another business. Something happens with that. And they just say, that's it. We sometimes keep resentment just because we don't want to be vulnerable again. I saw this recently with a woman who lost her dog. Oscar died, and this woman was in her 70s, and she loved Oscar so much.
But if you're an owner-operator or an
pets.
independent contractor,
And she said, yeah, I think I'm not going to have any more dogs. And I said, are you sure? He brought you so much joy. And I always teach that in life, it's imperative to think of it like a shampoo bottle, which is lather, rinse, repeat. With life, it's love, lose, grieve. Repeat, love, lose, grieve. I mean, in order to be a healthy person, the research says we have to keep on saying goodbye to things and people and replacing them to the best of our ability. But there's a times where people says, I'm not replacing. I'm done. No one's ever going to hurt me like that again. And, that's something that I've heard in my office more than once. And I've even heard that in my personal life. My own biological father, whose birthday would be tomorrow, he would be turning 92, but he's been gone for a dozen years now. Anyway, he said when he thought he was dying, Tom, he said, my father died when I was 15 years old, he said, and that hurt me so much that I promised myself I would never let anyone get that close to me again. I'd never love anyone like that again. And he said, you know what? I never did. He had 5 of us. And he said he admitted that he didn't let any of us get nearly as close to him because he was devastated by, losing his father. So for him, that hurt, that bitterness, that resentment, that became a protective wall around his heart so that nobody would ever hurt him like that again. Does it make sense? Of course it makes sense. Is it healthy? No, it's not healthy. You probably want to take a break, don't you?
Well, yeah, we actually went over for, I'm sorry about that. About 2 minutes ago, we went into the next thing for about 20 seconds before I caught it. So we went over, but we're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be here on TNC Radio.live, Building Strong Minds. Stay right there.
finding the right healthcare plan and insurance agent can be a challenge. Truck driving can be a dangerous job, and drivers expose themselves to unique health risks. Health insurance is an expensive but necessary expense for truck drivers. It helps protect them from unexpected high medical costs. Although truck drivers should have a health plan, many don't. Some trucking companies offer health plans for truck drivers, but if you're an owner-operator or an independent contractor, you might have to find your own health insurance policy. The Truckers Network proudly partners with the Health Plan Partner to help our members learn about the options they have for health insurance. The Health Plan Partner is dedicated to helping members of the Truckers Network find and learn about what's available to them in the marketplace. Since 1985, the Health Plan Partner has helped their clients figure out the health insurance maze we're in. Here are 6 tips from the Health Plan Partner for finding the right health plan and agent for truck drivers. Review your options with an experienced agent that specializes in health plans and can guide you in the right direction, even if it's not a plan they offer. Determine your budget. There are options for any budget, but the adage is true: you get what you pay for. so beware. Have a list of your doctors, medications, and any health history. Some plans do require a health history. Review your current plan annually if you have one to see if there are better options and rates available. Plans can change constantly. Have the plans explained to you in detail and ask a lot of questions and role play various situations. Quite a few times we only find out what the plan doesn't cover when we need it. Again, find an agent you feel comfortable with. You need to be able to trust them and call for guidance and questions anytime. With over 25 years of experience, Health Plan Partner wants to help truckers find the right health insurance plan.
Join Tom Kelly and the rest of the team each day on the Morning Grind. Then stay tuned for an encore presentation of last night's Landline Now. Weekdays on TNCRadio.live.
I'm Tom Kelly along with Dr. Christopher Cortman talking about the social black belt. And sorry we had to interrupt you there, Dr. Chris, but we're back, and so the floor is yours.
So we were talking about 4 reasons why people hold on to resentment. You know, our preachers have been telling us since we were little boys and girls that you need to forgive. You need to forgive. Forgive as your Father has forgiven you. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Why don't we forgive? Nobody talks about that. They just make us feel guilty because we don't always forgive. We keep resentments for years and years. So, since behavior is purposeful, I'm inclined to share at least 4 reasons why people don't let go of their resentments. They don't forgive. And when I say forgive, I just simply mean let go. They don't let go. So we said the first one is, I'm responsible if I let go of my forgiveness for my own happiness. The second one is I use my resentment as a wall so no one ever hurts me again. The third reason that people keep their resentment, Tom, is because if I let go of my resentment, then you got away with what you did to me. And it feels like I am somehow condoning it by letting it go. I have to say, I will hate you with all of my strength until I die, because what you did was so wrong and so devastating. And so real life stories like this include, he runs off with the younger office manager and he leaves me, his wife, with 3 kids. And I have to continue raising the 3 kids, and he just sends a check while he lives in Timbuktu. And I hate him with every ounce of strength. Every bit of energy I can muster is devoted to hating him because of what he did. And, the idea that my hatred is all consuming and my kids don't like me anymore because I'm just a monster, and they don't want to hear all the horrible things I say about their father and so forth. It feels to me, if I stop hating him, if I stop saying all these terrible things, that somehow I'm condoning it. I'm saying, yeah, it's okay what he did. He got away with it. And I'm chief on the list of those who have enabled him to get away with it. I wanted the judge to rip him a new one. And all the judge said is, okay, you guys are divorced. And here's what you're going to pay. And I wanted the judge to say, no, you're going to be sent to prison. And then when you die, to hell, because of what you did to someone who loved you and took care of your kids. Yeah, it feels sometimes like if I let go, I lost. I'm defeated. You win and I lost. And I'll be damned. That's I'm working with a young man now, and he's in a stalemate with his own father. Which one of them is going to reach out to the other one first? And this guy told me that his father did 8 years of the same thing with his own father until his own father said, all right, let's talk. So I said, wow, he's really good at this. Your father, it's like one of those staring contests. Who's going to blink first? His father can go a long time with his pride of saying, I won't even talk to my own biologic son because I don't like what he did. And if I'm the one who calls up first, then it feels like I was defeated. So people don't want to forgive sometimes because it's a realization that if I forgive, nothing terrible is going to happen to this other person. And it feels as if I lost, I was defeated, I've been humiliated, and nothing bad will ever happen to that person. Sadly, with that reasoning, if this were a TV program, you could see what I'm doing, but it's like slapping my own face and saying, there, take that. Now how do you feel?
Right.
Because we all know how bad resentment is. It's a cancer. It actually, who was it that said, hating someone is like drinking a poison and hoping the other person dies. And that's so true. There might have been Confucius, I don't know. But it's absolutely true. Hatred poisons the vessel. It doesn't poison the other person that you hate.
Did in your course of working with a lot of different people, and you've done something like 80,000 plus hours of therapy with other people, and I'm sure you've seen these truths and the excuse that people use to hold on to the resentment. Is there one that seems to be more prevalent than the others?
When I get to the third one, people smile because I say, try to find which one relates to you the most. Maybe it's all of these. And they smile at the third one. No one's ever said that to them before. And they go, yeah, that's it. I can't let this go, or it feels like somehow I'm giving in and she got the best of me, and I feel like I have to hate her or else she won.
Yeah, I guess that's why I was asking. To me, that seems like the one that most people would choose, but I wasn't sure if that would be if any of them would be more prominent than any others.
Well, there's a fourth one too, Tom, if we have a moment now. And the fourth one is for people who are still in the relationship. It's not that I'll hate you forever. It's that you and I are still in a relationship, but I'm holding on to a resentment against you. And what I'm doing by not letting that go is I'm holding on to it like an ace in the hole, or like a club that I can take out with any argument. And I'll see this doing couples therapy. He'll say something and she doesn't like it. And then she'll say, I'm not the one who cheated on you. And he'll look at her and go, honey, that was 15 years ago. When are we going to let that go? I haven't done anything since. And she's not letting it go because she can win every argument by taking that club out.
Yeah, it's the trump card.
Boom. It is. That's exactly what I call it. You keep the trump card. You can win every hand. You have to keep playing it over and over again. But in this way, you're never wrong. You never have to say, I'm sorry. You can always trace it back to what really happened 15 years ago. You cheated on me, and I have not been able to forgive you since. And that's the fourth reason.
But see, that's the funny thing is they'll say, no, I've forgiven you. I have no problem. I've forgiven you. But I need to remind you every so often of this terrible sin that you committed against me. and to me, that's a misunderstanding of what forgiveness is.
Well, what forgiveness really is, I'll give you a really good, quick story. I went to this restaurant on my birthday a year and a half ago. And to make a long story short, we finally got bread at 1 hour and 50 minutes.
No.
And after 2 hours, the server said, okay, you guys are fourth in line to get food. If you want to go, I'll just charge you for any drinks you've had, and then you can just leave. And we left, and I ate my birthday dinner at Perkins. Pancakes and eggs at 10:30 p.m. on a Saturday night. Anyway, it wasn't devastating. It was more funny than anything. But here's the thing. I'm at the gym one night, and I see a guy with the name of the restaurant, and I put together, oh, that's the guy. I met him at the Best of Venice a couple of years ago. His restaurant was the best. I was supposed to be the best psychologist. Anyway, I said, someday I'm going to eat there, and I did, and I told him the story of what happened. He was so embarrassed. He was so embarrassed that his restaurant did that to someone, let alone someone he met and wanted to impress. And it took well over a year to run into him, and he said, this weekend, I want you to come back to my restaurant, and I promise that we're going to take good care of you. So I took him up on it. And I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't want to hurt the guy. I knew he had nothing to do with it. But at the end of this unbelievably great meal, there was, $200 and something worth of food. And then at the bottom, it said, what you owe, 000. What forgiveness is it's been paid for. It's done. It's over. You don't owe anything. And what the lack of forgiveness is, when you keep bringing that up, I forgave you, but then it would be like that guy calling me and going, you never paid for that dinner. Mm-hmm. Like, it said 0. No, you never paid for it. You came into my restaurant and you ate all that food and you said you loved it, and then you didn't pay for it. That's the same thing as saying to somebody, I forgive you, and then bringing it up every time you need it in an argument.
Exactly. I tell you what, time for the bottom of the hour break. Let's do that. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Don't touch that dial. Do people even have dials anymore?
I don't know what they're touching.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. This is now the 4th video on emotions. And we talked about how emotions are key to everything you do. And we talked about how emotions come not from reality or events or situations, but from your perception of things. And in the last video, we talked about your investments. What matters to you is what creates emotion. Now I want to talk to you about how all emotions are statements about you. Do you ever go to a movie with somebody and you come out of the theater and you're all excited, or the other person's all excited about the movie, and the other person says, it was okay? Or a restaurant where, one person is thrilled and excited, what a great meal, and the other person is like, I never want to go back there again. Our emotions are statements about us, and we could react differently. That is, perceive things differently, even though we're perceiving the very same event. I tell a story about a homeless man in the street, and 4 people walk by this homeless person. And the first person looks over and looks away quickly and says to self, I didn't see anything. And the second person walks by and says, but for the grace of God go I. That could have been me in my drinking days. And the third person looks over and says, it's no good bums like that bring this country down. Here I am slaving every day to pay taxes for some lazy person to lie shamelessly in the street. And the fourth person walks by and says, oh, the poor soul. I wonder if there's something I could do. Walks over to the person, sees that the person's sleeping, puts a $20 bill in the pocket, and walks away praying and thinking positive thoughts for that person all day long. Well, what if I told you that the homeless person is an actor? lying in the street. Those reactions, those feelings, those responses of the four people are statements about them. That's somebody lying in the street. How I think and feel, those are statements about me. In the final video on emotions, I want to talk about the meaning of our different emotions and the fact that they're a call to action.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Stiction.
found throughout the oil system, stiction is the sticky friction that negatively impacts your engine's ability to function at an optimal level. The molecular structure of oil is a hydrocarbon. The engine's extreme heat, tight tolerances, and high pressure cause the oil to break down and release hydrogen, leaving behind varnish, a carbon-based deposit. The varnish clings to the engine's moving parts, creating drag on the turbocharger, oil pump, and pistons. Symptoms of stiction include a rough idle and a loss of fuel economy and performance. Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator delivers a 98% clean rating in third-party scrub tests. Its synthetic cleaner plus nano lubricant contains no harmful solvents and is formulated to be left in the engine to safely dissolve stiction for thousands of miles. It works as you drive.
Stiction Eliminator is available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
And best song with snaps since West Side Story. TNCRadio.live. This is Building Strong Minds with Dr. Christopher Cortman. So, Dr. Chris, we were talking about the truths, and let's pick back up from where we were.
Yeah, we're talking about the four reasons why people hold on to resentment. If there's a fifth one about people holding on, it's because they have to face the horror of what happened. When I treat people who have been traumatized by something, and you know, in the real world, there are terrible things that people do to people. You know, they're not just natural disasters like hurricanes and floods. There's things like molestation of children and rape of teenagers and adults and just really terrible things. One of the reasons why people hold on to the terrible experience is because in order to release it, they have to go through it. They absolutely have to go through everything that happened to them. I've had the good fortune of treating so many women who were molested at some point in their lives. And I say good fortune because I learned that they can heal if they're brave enough to just tell their stories. But by telling their stories, they feel everything they need to feel, and they have to feel it to express it in order to release it. And then they can champion it, which is the amazing thing, which is what is keeping me in business after all these years. I'm still happy to work with people like that because I know there's a big upside. There's healing available. But they have to be brave enough to talk about the worst things that have happened to them. And most people don't want to go anywhere near the worst thing that happened to them. You know, the Vietnam vets, you know, I may have said before on the show, I've talked to a number of guys over the years, but I remember going into the hospital and I asked the guy, were you ever in the military? And he said, I was in Nam and we don't talk about it. And that was one sentence. And he was really clear. That's all you're getting out of me. And it's that kind of, it's easy to understand, but it's that kind of attitude that keeps people stuck in whatever the worst thing was that happened to them.
Sure.
So what I always want to do is to say, you're in a safe place now, and together we can process whatever this is. And I know there's a story with a death in it. And I know there's a story where someone gets raped. And I know there's a story where, you know, you were swindled out of everything. I know that, but we still have to talk about it. And we get to the 10th truth. The point I'm going to make is that you got to remember, feel, express, release, and then you could reframe it. But if we avoid it like the plague, we're not going to ever get any better. And that's the myth of time heals all wounds.
Right.
What time really does is it passes. That's what time does. Can we get better over time? Yeah, because we release things over time. But the way to really heal is not just say, well, just give it some time. The way to heal is we have to be brave enough to deal with whatever happened to us. So, if there's a fifth reason why people avoid and don't forgive, they don't let go, they hold on to resentment, is because they don't want to face, the horror of what happened. A story just popped into my head. A young lady in the gifted school was brought in to see me because she was caught shoplifting, and parents had money, and girl had opportunity, and it's like, why are you shoplifting? There's a purpose for behavior. This whole truth is about, like, why do you shoplift? All you have to do is ask, and you could probably have what you want because you're doing well in school and so forth. Anyway, she didn't get into anything much. It was just like, well, this was a mistake and blah, blah, blah. So, I didn't think we were going to get very far in therapy. And then something really incredible happens, and her father is in the hallway doing whatever he's going where he's going, and outside her room he can hear her talking to her boyfriend, and she goes, I can't believe all these things happened to me. And she's passionate about it. She's talking to her boyfriend who's now in college, and she says, first I get molested by the babysitter, and now I'm arrested for, and the father's like, what? And he goes running to his wife, her mother, and go, this is what I heard. This is what I heard. And they're going, wait a minute, what babysitter? She only had one babysitter for one night in her entire life. They did all the math. Only once did they ever leave her with a babysitter, and it was his best friend.
Oh, goodness.
And so they come in by themselves without her, and they say, what are we supposed to do? I overheard this. I don't even know this, but now I know this. How do we handle this? And I said, you know what we do? We tell the truth. We tell the truth. I'm walking in the hallway and I hear you and you're passionately talking to your boyfriend, and this is what you said. I can't unknow this now that I know this. Let's talk. So anyway, to make a long story short, we had to go through what happened to her on that night. We had to go through it. She never wanted to tell anyone. And looking back, the father and mother both said her entire behavior changed right after that night. And the father and mother both wrote it off as, well, she's turning 10 now, so she's not daddy's little girl anymore. She's not sitting on his lap. But everything changed. Everything changed that night, and nobody had a clue. I mean, why would they suspect his best friend? Anyway, she had to tell that story. She had to deal with that story finally. It was never going to get better on its own. And ultimately, the shoplifting was like pointing to the fact that there was a splinter that needed to be removed. Why did she keep that bad behavior? I don't know, but possibly to send a message that I'm not doing really well in my life. I have a terrible secret. And until this secret is dealt with and it's removed, I'm not going to get where I need to go. In fact, I may end up, instead of at a great college, I may end up in juvie. Juvenile detention,
Sure,
by the way.
sure,
Is what
yeah. So the conversation that Dad overheard, maybe she was hoping Dad would overhear it?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know that. But I know that she was stuck in these bad behavior patterns because it was protecting her. And she's trying to send a message at the same time. I have to deal with this. You know, and I can't deal with it.
Right. So, are there more reasons that people hold on to these resentments?
You know, there very well may be, but that's the core. I mean, you kind of get the idea. Why do we keep things? Because we think we need them. You know, I have people who hold on to fear. And why do they keep the fear? They're afraid to let their fear go because they'll let their guard down and then something bad can happen to them.
Right. Wow. Well, I tell you what, let's take a break since we went over earlier. We'll take a break now, come back, and can you believe it? Time's almost up. Always goes so fast. But we'll be back here on tncradio.live in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Living life on the road can be exhausting. It's not uncommon for truckers to live inside their truck more than their own home. Other than the essential clothing, hygiene, and sleeping items, here are some items every truck driver needs to make life on the road more pleasant and feel more like home. A seat cushion. Comfort is key when driving for 11 hours each day. Having a seat cushion can help with tailbone and back pain. It's also great for boosting overall mood while driving. A portable stove. Investing in a portable stove is a great way to start eating your favorite meals on the road. Eating the same fast food and gas station food gets old really quick. Before buying a portable cooker, you need to invest in a power inverter. A power inverter allows you to use your vehicle's battery to generate AC that can run many types of electrical devices. Car mount. Having a place to mount your cell phone or GPS can be extremely convenient and much safer for truck drivers. Coffee maker. There's nothing quite like a fresh cup of coffee in the morning. Staying awake and alert is crucial for truck drivers. Dash cam. A dash cam is a must-have gadget for your expensive truck. A high-quality dash cam can save you from many problems while traveling on the road. A cooler. Having a cooler on the road can save time and money. It also provides the option for truckers to eat healthier meals.
Do you feel like you're facing more than just the physical road ahead of you? Are you wondering if there's more to life? Join Ron Fraser, the host of Truckers Life Radio, every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, where he discusses the spiritual side of a driver's life. On the show, he goes through the spiritual and moral questions drivers face on a daily basis, helping you, the driver, as you travel life's highway.
Welcome back in tncradio.live. One segment left. Before we go any further, Dr. Christopher Cortman, how can people find your books, find out more about you, all that kind of good stuff?
srqshrink.com.
srqshrink.com.
Yeah, they can reach out to me online or call my office. They can buy books if they want to. They can see videos on TikTok. You know, look up TikTok Shrink or just Dr. Christopher Cortman. It's all there.
And of course, we play those same TikTok. They run 3 or 4 minutes.
Mental health minutes. Yeah.
And we run those at different points throughout the day, and of course during this program, and submit them to you as just really great things to. And I always get positive feedback on them. That people find these nuggets of wisdom that they're able to incorporate rather quickly, and so I love them, and you know we refer to those things because we also do them on other things similar to what you've done. We have 3 or 4 minutes, and sometimes they're on the best way to do spring cleaning for your truck, or 5 things you ought to see while driving across the country, and we have those kind of mixed in with your stuff as well. And I think that Well, I know that people have really enjoyed hearing those, and just added a few more to the list, another dozen or so that added into all that, so that people can continue to hear those throughout the day.
That's great. I really appreciate that, and happy to continue doing the mental health minutes, because just want to get sometimes one little truth out there, one little morsel that somebody can chew on and digest, that makes them feel a little better.
Exactly. All right, so we've got a little less than 10 minutes left on tonight's program. Where to now?
Why do people keep guilt? You know, again, there's a payoff. There's a payoff for all these things. And, you know, I have had probably 4 different people over the years. That's not a lot of people, that, you know, when you're talking about doing 80,000 hours of therapy, but 4 different people over the years who came in to tell me how guilty they felt when someone died in their family. And the interview is remarkably similar. It's like, you know, so-and-so died a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I can't seem to shake the guilt. And I say, tell me about the guilt. And they say, oh, it just feels awful. It's my fault. I let them down. I should have done something differently to save them. And I said, well, what did you do? And, you know, sometimes they'll say, well, I did everything I knew how to do. I took them to their physician. I got a second opinion. I took them to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. It's like, wow, that's really impressive. So what would you do differently? They go, oh, that's just it. I don't know what I would have done differently. And I listen to that, and at some point I smile and say, your problem's not really guilt. And they go, what do you mean? I feel so guilty. What do you mean it's not really guilt? I say, no, you're holding on to the guilt in an effort to protest their death. As long as you stay guilty, you don't have to say goodbye to them. It's your fault. It's like in Major League Baseball. We're playing this game under protest. You know, we don't have to admit that we really lost because we're playing it under protest.
That's right.
We can hold on to guilt in an effort to protect ourselves from reality. And that means self-contempt. The unwillingness to let myself off the hook. I just went through it again with another patient. Now, again, it doesn't happen that often in my experience, but it happens enough. And this woman had a husband who has dementia. And it wasn't going so well. And at one point, she could not take care of him in the same way anymore. You know, they were married 300 or 400 years, I don't know. And finally, she brought him in to hospice. And this is what she's saying now. I think I brought him in too soon.
Right.
I said,
Right.
You can't bring someone into hospice. The physician has to approve, and that means they have to have 6 months or less to live. Otherwise, we would all be bringing our spouses in at any time we were mad at him. I want to put my wife in hospice, but she's only 30. Yeah, I know, but I think it's time for her to go. You know, we would all be doing that. You can't get in. I like you couldn't bring your husband in unless he had less than 6 months. You were not rushing anything. And then she would tell me stories about how he would forget and how much he suffered. It's like, you were just doing that which was most compassionate. You were doing that which was necessary. You weren't in denial for that one moment when you said, this has to happen. And now you're going to spend the rest of your life blaming yourself? I'll tell you what, if your husband could talk to you now, he would say, thank you for loving me. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your unrelenting devotion when I was crazy in my mind, because I was. Dementia makes you crazy. And thank you for mercifully taking me in because I wasn't living, I was surviving my life. Thank you. He would say something like that. And I actually had her write a letter to herself from him to say those things.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because sometimes we need to hear it from another part of ourselves. Like, you did everything you knew how to do. You don't deserve to be guilty, but you do have to say goodbye to him. And when we successfully say goodbye, guess what? We don't need the guilt anymore.
Interesting.
So it's one of those things that, we hold on to because we need it. We hold on to things because we think we need them. We hold on to emotions sometimes because we need them. Sometimes we keep sadness in an effort to keep someone alive. Sometimes we stay depressed because it protects us against having to face things in life that frighten us. Once time I had a woman who was depressed and she started to come out of it. And it was almost like a rabbit coming out of her hole, and she looked around and she saw all this stuff that she was going to have to deal with, and she went right back in the hole. Nope. I think I'm going to stay in the safety of my depression. It made sense.
Do you see people who stop showing up for therapy because by going in the direction that you're going, they will no longer have what it is they're holding on to, and so when they get close to getting rid of it, they go, "No, I'm going to back off here"?
Tom, that's a brilliant question, and it's backed up by the wisdom that you have. You couldn't just pull that one out of the air. That is absolutely what people do. They start getting too close to something they have to contend with, and they may disappear. They may disappear forever. They may disappear for a month. I remember a lady who disappeared for 5 years. And when she came back, we had to deal with the very same memory that was surfacing 5 years ago that she ran from. And it was amazing. The time didn't do anything to it. It was like, are you back? Because she's still having the same dream. We have to look at what happened. And then we finally did, and guess what? She put it away. She didn't have to deal with that anymore. But until she was ready to do that, her options weren't very good. She had to deal with this terrible, scary, traumatic thing or run from it.
Amazing. Just amazing. Well, we are just about out of time. What's coming up for next week?
I think we're going to begin next week with the saboteur, the part of ourselves that ruins our lives, that sabotages us. And we hired the saboteur because he lives inside of me. She lives inside of you. I have a saboteur that's caused me issues in my life because he's trying to protect me, and we'll talk about that. Behavior's purposeful. That's the third truth. The fourth truth is we all have a saboteur that we use to protect us from bad outcomes. And we're going to get into that next time.
So the saboteur's job is protection?
Absolutely. Protection from... I'll give you a little hint. This is like the trailer for the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
There's two big fears that humans have besides dying. Fear of rejection and fear of failure. And if I have a saboteur that can talk me out of doing something, then I don't have to face that fear.
Remarkable. Okay. Well, we're going to have fun with that one. Because I can see how that could interrupt life on so many different levels.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, audience, for listening in with us. We'll be back same time, same channel next week. Coming up next is Hope Zavara in the podcast. And then right after that, our friends from TFC Global with Drivers Life Radio, all right here on TNCRadio.live.